And he's rubbing his hands and he leaned over and he went to me, "Son, you little bastard, you dirty little Larry's fuck pig," and he spat in my face. That was my introduction to the West Midlands Serious Crime Squad. And then of course I had forensics, which I gave of my own free will. And then I went back in and was told to stand at the door. Then I was told to go into the room, and as I walked into the room, bang in the back of the head, straight through the door, didn't even touch the fucking table, straight over it I went. And all I can remember is one of the cops screaming, "Don't mark his fucking face, don't mark the bastard's face." That was about 10 to 9, 5 to 9 in the morning. They carried on battering me until 5:30 that night. Dragging me up and down the floor, kicking me, spitting on me. And the usual rhetoric from them was about my family. My mother's an IRA whore. My dad's an IRA bastard. By the way, my dad, God rest him, my dad spent 30 years in the British Army. He joined as a drummer boy in 1920 something. And he went to India with the Raj. Came back, and instead of being demobbed in 1946, my dad took over Henry Place, which is the Army recruiting centre for the whole of Ireland, for the British Army. It's where they all go to be trained. My father was the unarmed combat and weapons instructor there for 14 years. He was made RSM in 1959, and that's when he left it, because he had to go over to East Belfast over to Hollywood, and we said, "No fucking way, we're going out of our town over there," so we didn't go. And my father left it. The same week that my father came out of the British Army in 1959, my older brother, I'm the second oldest of 6, my oldest brother joined it. And he joined my father's same regiment, 18th Field Regiment Royal Artillery. And during all the time that I was in prison, my brother was in the British Army. He served 27 years and came out in 1986. And during the 27 years that he was in it, he worked with Special Forces Fort Bragg, Special Forces Canada, Special Forces NATO, and also with the SAS at home. He's also a martial arts expert and all the fucking rest of the snipers up and everything. And of course I also have another young brother who was serving 12 in the 60s and the beginning of the 70s, who was serving 12 years in the 2nd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment. He joined that because the headquarters only a couple of, about 2 miles from my mother's house, where she used to live in Birmingham. And of course in 1974, in February of 1974, one of my other younger brothers sold up his business and his house, and he joined the British Army. And he had done his 6 months training, and he was waiting to be sent to Germany to my older brother's regiment, and of course the Birmingham pub bombings happened and he went out. That, ladies and gentlemen, is just a brief history of my background, my family's background. I tell everybody I was reared by the British Army. I'm proud of it. To deny it would deny my father, and I would never do that. But I also tell people, me, I'm Irish, I'm Green, I'm Republican, and I'm proud of it. And of course, by the time the Birmingham police finished with us, this might sound silly, ladies and gentlemen, I spent 16.5 years of my life in prison for the Birmingham pub bombing. But you know what? And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I have never, ever in my life been questioned about the Birmingham pub bombings. Not even to this present moment. I have never been asked a question about the Birmingham pub bombings. According to the Birmingham police, when they came in and were battering me, they told me straight. And my mother, God rest her, before she died, always said to me, "Don't be bitter, son." And believe me, I'm not bitter in the sense that my mother meant. I'm not bitter against every police officer. In fact, I have a hard fucking time defending them. And I am bitter against the Birmingham police. And I try to tell my mother, the reason why I'm bitter, and even as I'm telling you this, and there's like a fucking video in here, they picked me up off the floor in the afternoon, they slammed me in the chair. They'd been battering me for about, what, 5, 6 hours. And he turned around and he said to me, quote, "We know you didn't do the bombings. We don't give a fuck who done the bombings. We've got you, that's good enough for us. We have our orders. Our orders are to get confessions and convictions and to use any means possible," unquote. Those words, ladies and gentlemen, are burnt into my brain like a fuck, I don't know what. He also went on to tell me that nothing would ever happen to them, no matter what happened in the future. And he said, "You don't believe me." And he walked over to his jacket pocket that was in the corner, and he put his hand in his pocket, and he pulled out a little piece of paper. Anybody that's familiar with the army or the prison service, the police, etc., they have what they call these things communiques, and they're about that size. And he pulled it out of his pocket, and he pulled my head back, and he shoved it onto my lap. He said, "Me fucking look at it, read it, you bastard, read it. That's our orders, get confession convictions, use any means you have to." He said, "I can take you out and say, fucking shoot you if I want to. And the only thing I'm going to get is a medal, because I'm going to tell you you escaped." Anyway, over the next 3 days, they continued torturing us and battering us. And, well, everyone knows what happened. We didn't go to trial to be tried. We went to be tried just to be sentenced. The police told us that there was only one thing to be decided: whether we were going to get natural life sentences or life sentences with 30-35-year recommended. It didn't make any fucking difference. What's the difference? If you're for 30 years of age, you're going to get 35 recommended or natural life, you're going to die anyway in prison. Me, on the back of my prison file in a little red box, it was stamped, "This man is never to be released from prison, but if at any time in the future the Home Secretary of the day decides to release this man, it must be because of old age and infirmity." So I was down to die in prison. When I first went in, I was 12.5 stone, by the way, when I first went into jail. I was 48 inches in the chest and 19 inches in the neck. I used to tell people I was fighting weight, this here is my loving weight, but what do you call it? When I went into jail, I've met lots of people when I first went into jail. The prison population then was around about 38,000. And over the next few years, I met lots of people and heard about others in other prisons that were claiming they're innocent. And of course, after what happened to us in the Midlands, so many other things happened shortly after that. More and more cases were coming in, more and more high profile. The Tories case, like the Guildford 4, the Maguire 7, Judith Ward, the Bridgewater 4, the Tottenham 3, etc., etc., etc. When I met some of these people, these are people that, as John very pointed out, they supposed you'd made statements, supposed you'd done this, supposed you'd done that. And honest to God, half the poor bastards couldn't even write their own name. And handicapped. You will never understand that there is nothing. The British prison system, I must say this before I go any further, and this might sound funny coming from me, but the British prison system and the British legal system is probably the greatest, the best, and the most purest in the world. There's fuck all wrong with the system. What is wrong is the dirty, evil, corrupt, perverted bastards who are sitting up there administering it. That is what's wrong with the system, not the system itself. The people in power. And of course, during the years that I was in prison, I kept fighting. I had a lot of good people tell me, well-intentioned people, well-meaning, and they told me, and I had the letters at home to prove it. They said to me that what I was trying to do was insurmountable and I could never ever prove my innocence. Thank fuck I didn't take their advice. Of course, while I was in prison, I went on, I didn't drink before I went in, and then I started on the drink in the prison hooch, and I went off the head. I tried to kill prison officers, etc. I ended up in monkey suits, straight jackets, padded cells, you name it. I ended up everywhere. And it was the prison doctor at Park House, Dr. Cooper. He had been the head psychiatrist and doctor at Broadmoor for 22 years. And after about my 5th or 6th escapade on the drink and having run amok, I ended up one weekend out of my face and out of my head. I tried to kill 14 prison officers and inmates after total. I was going around trying to stab them all. Some of the inmates were even my own mates. And Dr. Cooper came to me and he sat me down about 4 days after when I sobered up and come round. And he said to me, "Hill, I can't carry on doing this for you." And it was him who actually sat me down and showed me when I read it, quoted you about my file. It was him who showed me that I was never going to get out of prison. And he said to me, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do with you." He said, "Them 14 charge sheets, I'll tear them up if you make me a promise tonight that you're never going to go back on the drink." And he said, well, you can go up under the wing, and you can sit up there all day and you can smoke as much fucking cannabis as you want. There's the nicest bloke in the world on it. But don't touch the drink, because see the way you're going? In about 6 months' time, I'm going to stand in the local court and I'm going to get you a life sentence for killing the prison officer or an inmate. And you see what I do? I'm going to throw away the key. And he told me, he says, Hill, you're not an idiot. You were a shop steward when you were 20 years old, youngest shop steward in the AEU's history in the Midlands. And he read my record and he said, you're not an idiot, he says, you're a very intelligent bloke. And I'm going to tell you something. And you might think I'm joking you. And ladies and gentlemen, I did, but I found out later he was telling the truth. And he told me, that is mightier than the sword. And he advised me to pick up the pen. And I did. And that was in 1976, 77. And of course, over the next few years, I used to write out letters to people and I used to get them back unopened. So-called good people who I thought I would get a reply from. My biggest problem in prison was overcoming the prejudice that was directed towards the Irish in the 70s and the 80s. And it took me 10 years. 10 years before I got someone to actually sit down and talk to me about the Birmingham pub bombings. And that man turned out, he's no longer with us now, God rest his soul, Sir John Farr, the Tory MP from Margaret Harbour in Leicester, and I was in the prison there at Garvey Prison. And he come and see me and I told him what happened to me. And he took my stuff away, all my paperwork, and because of what he found out, through his own investigations, that he came back. And he then became probably my greatest supporter, and he was what I call, he cleaned us. Up until that time, when anyone tried to raise a question about us in the House of Commons, they were slagged off as being left-wing loonies, Marxist, IRA sympathisers, etc., etc. Of course, when Sir John Farr appeared at the realm, ex-Back 22 committee member, and also a prisoner of war, except a decorated soldier, when he got up to speak, the one thing they couldn't say about Sir John Farr was he was an IRA sympathiser or a Marxist, and of course that helped to make it easier for us. During the time that I was in prison, let's talk about what our main theme is here tonight, defending our human rights. Well, when I was in prison, there is no such thing in prison as rights. Everything is a privilege. No rights. Even if you want the book, if you want the pen, it's at the governor's discretion. It is a privilege. And of course, we fought for a lot of things in prisons and we've seen the changes. I've seen the changes in prison. And I said when I came out, that if things were allowed to continue in this country, that we were going to have a hell of a lot more Birmingham 6s, Guildford 4s, etc., etc. I wish to God I could stand here and tell you people I was wrong. Unfortunately, I wasn't. I was right. And since 1993, the prison population in this country has doubled. And when I come out, I would say that the number of innocent people in prison, 200, maybe 300. Today, that is thousands. Today it's somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000. With the dramatic rise in the prison population has also come a dramatic rise in people who are claiming they're innocent. I don't profess to say that everybody in jail who says they're innocent is innocent. I know some of them are not. But believe me, the vast majority of them are. Because the one thing you cannot do in prison, and the one thing that if you do, you deserve to be fucking locked up. If you are guilty of a crime in jail, and you're claiming you're innocent, you're an idiot. Because if you claim you're innocent, you're not going to get out. You're not going to get parole. You're not going to get pre-release schemes. But if you're guilty, hey, you go through the system like that. As John pointed out earlier on about Robert Brown serving 25 years. Robert Brown could have been out when he had served 13 years. And all he had to do was to put his name in a bit of paper. And he refused. And he served another 12 years. That's the treatment you get when you're innocent. And you will never admit to something that